Will Donald Trump and the US Congress help Tesla and other manufacturers that make electric cars to get back to receiving the full tax credit? As you know, it's being phased out for Tesla, pretty soon for GM, and even after that, Nissan as well. Or will they remain with the status quo, which essentially punishing the manufacturers that took a chance and started producing electric cars and kind of giving an advantage to the ones that have been dragging their feet? I'll tell you what's happening. I'll tell you what the little caveats are. All of this is coming up next.
Taking over the world, electrifying the world, E4 Electric.
Welcome to E4 Electric, your number one source of unbiased electric car news. Go ahead and click on that subscribe button down there so you don't miss anything moving forward. All right, so let's talk about this. As you know, right now, the way the tax credit here in the United States works is that for the first 200,000 cars that each manufacturer is selling, and by cars I mean electric cars, those customers are getting $7,500 in tax credit. So you have to pay at least $7,500 to get it back. It's different with leases because when you're doing a lease, it's the bank that actually is getting it. So you kind of get it as a pass-through discount, which is even better. Many ways why leasing a car is an electric car especially much better, but that's a whole different video which you can find on my channel. I've made quite a few, and I'll make another one in the next couple of weeks. But the point here is that it's been helping, right? Obviously, $7,500 off of even a $75,000 car, that's percent off. That's a lot. There's some California and other state incentives as well. By the way, the state of Georgia is considering one as well. They used to have one of the biggest ones, I think around $5,000. So they're considering it again. And as you know, now Tesla has finally sold 200,000 cars, which is great because they've been pioneering this. And the tax credit has been cut in half. It's going to be cut in half once again in another few months. GM is entering the phase out. And as you know, Tesla and GM are US manufacturers. And it is to the advantage of our government, just like German government or any other government, is to encourage their own automakers to continue to thrive. And it's going to be kind of hard once the Mercedes and BMW and Audi and Nissan and others kind of going to come in and really start getting that disadvantage for Tesla and GM. Well, that's not going to be good for the local auto manufacturers like Tesla and GM. So there's now a bill that's being considered in both houses, believe it or not, and it's bipartisan. Now that's something very different because, as you know, the story has not been very clear about it. So let me give you a little bit of background what's been happening and how it's different this time around. Before that, of course, I want to make sure that you guys know that this video and this channel is sponsored by Byton. Check out the new Byton M-Byte coming to the US and Europe next year, starting at $45,000. But look how fast and easy it is to reserve one, mainly because there's no payment form. That's right, absolutely zero money down to reserve yours. I would suggest doing it right now. There's a link in the description of this video, or you can go to byton.com so you don't have to be in a long line once they're here next year. Okay, so let's talk about what's been happening in the last year or two, right? So there were a few bills, Republican bills, that proposed to completely cutting the tax credit. Now that in defense of that, it would also even things out, right? Nobody would have a tax credit, so things would be even again, rather than having everybody have the tax credit. So to be fair, that is a solution against the unfairness of what's happening right now. And to be honest with you, I think Tesla might just even prefer that, right? And GM, that it's a disadvantage at this point. Now, as you guys remember, or maybe not, but I also had a Democratic Congressman Walsh here, as you remember, when he had this bill, and which really is the right way to do it, where he basically wanted to extend everything for, I think, 5 years. So basically, next 5 years, everybody gets the tax credit as long as you're making electric cars. And I think that is the right way to do it. Unfortunately, that bill didn't really go that far because at that time, I think this was during summer, both houses were controlled by Republicans, so it didn't really make that far. Now, this week, there's a bipartisan support, and really it's being pushed forward relatively aggressively, which is great. And again, this one's great news for Tesla because what's being proposed is this. Basically an extension of 400,000 more cars starting, I believe now. I believe that's how bill is written. And after that, the phase out is going to start again. It's going to be much more aggressive, shorter period of time. But this way, everybody will continue getting the tax credit. The only thing is, after the 200,000 mark, it will go from 7,500 to 7,000. So that's the only caveat. I think it's pretty fair. But again, it doesn't really hit the nail on the head as far as just like, let's just give everybody just like so many years, just like Representative Walsh suggested, and let them make as many cars as they can. And after that, everybody will be at the disadvantage once again. Now, the what's interesting about this bill is that it's being co-sponsored by a Republican and a Democrat in the Senate, and a Republican and a Democrat in the House of Representatives. So that is actually a good thing. Now, the big question, of course, will Donald Trump sign the bill? Now, let's not forget that originally the $7,500 tax credit was signed by the Republican president, George W. Bush. That's when it was signed. I believe it took effect when Obama became president, but it was signed by George W. Bush. So it's not a non-Republican thing. It's very much a Republican thing. It will definitely help the U.S. manufacturing, right? GM and Tesla are considered to be pretty big manufacturers now in the United States, and it will help and it will kind of protect it against all the German and Japanese manufacturers coming in and trying to sort of get the fruits of labor that that Tesla and GM have kind of created here. So I think it is something that I see Donald Trump signing. Let me know in the comment section if you guys think that that's a possibility. Now let's break this down in a positive and negative. Now the positive thing here is pretty obvious. If this first of all is bipartisan. Secondly, it's in both houses. Thirdly, if it passes, everybody benefits. Meaning, if you buy an electric car, you're going to get $7,000 to $7,500 in tax credits, and it's going to be for another 400,000 cars. Which even though Tesla's producing a lot, that's another couple of years of Don't forget this is U.S. sales. So this is all around good news. Now on the opposite side, the drawback is that are we just kicking the can down the road with this? And in another year or two, the disadvantage is going to be obvious as well. But of course, it's better to kick the can down the road than to just throw it right out. And right now, Tesla is already and GM are sort of hurting because of that. So it's that would be the only negative. And of course, will Donald Trump sign it? I definitely will keep my eye on it. Let me know. What do you guys think? Do you think this is a good way to handle it? Or do you think we need like a completely different reform? And where would it come from? Or should we completely get rid of the tax credit and just kind of keep going like nothing ever happened and just assume that this industry can stand on their own 2 feet? And can it? I don't know. It's been proving wrong and right in different countries. And as you know, China's been phasing it out pretty aggressively. And just for the U.S., it's definitely a little bit different. Now, by the way, let me remind you to get on our VIP list. This is our weekly newsletter where you can we'll send you an exclusive content, offers, and news that we don't feature on this channel or even on our website. So just go to e4electric.com/VIP. That link is in the description of this video. And of course, thank you to my newer one of my newest Patreons, Elias Antonia. Thank you for joining my Patreon community, the only place where you can watch me live. If you guys want to join, just go to patreon.com/e4electric. That link is also in the description of this video. All right, looking forward to your comments. Other than that, see you next time, and remember to stay charged.